Hello, welcome to another episode of Relationship Smart Women. I hope you are well. Today I want to talk about suffering. We are not going to get rid of suffering. In fact, isn't that the first rule? I think it's called a noble truth of Buddhism. Suffering exists. I want to tell you a little story about a client of mine who had a breakthrough last week. And this client was feeling really stressed. They had to do a work presentation. And the work presentations always gave them so much stress and anxiety. But this time around, my client had a very different experience. They realized that their anxiety in this moment was a normal and natural response to the situation. It was coming from parts that really, really cared about being accepted, about keeping the job, about being a success. And my client was able to change from a response that they would normally have, which was to get really stressed and anxious about feeling stressed and anxious, and then escalating and getting really stuck in a cycle, to actually going, hey, this is a natural, normal nervous system response. I offer compassion to the parts of me that are worried. Thank you for caring for me. Thank you for looking after me. My client totally normalized it. The anxiety didn't disappear, but it was just there with my client during the presentation. And that was okay. You see, the aim of healing and of transformation is not to get rid of your natural human responses. You are still going to feel all the things: angry, uncomfortable, sad, resentful, upset. You're not getting rid of any of that because we are not cocooning you in cotton wool and keeping you away from experiences and life. You are still out there having input. Therefore, those experiences, those feelings are still going to be there. But what we are doing is we're giving ourselves understanding and compassion, kind of going, hey, I get it. It makes sense that you would be worried. Thank you for caring. Rather than making it worse by making it wrong, telling yourself, I shouldn't feel this way. I'm wrong for feeling this way. I'm an idiot. I'm not coping. I never cope. Feel the difference? This also reminds me of ACT, acceptance and commitment therapy. And one of the tools that I like with ACT is this idea that when we make something wrong and we tell ourselves we shouldn't have it, it's like we're holding the problem right up in front of our face. And we're like, I wish you'd go away. And all our energy and attention is on this anxiety or this pain or this suffering that we're feeling. We're focusing on it so much that it kind of comes between us and life, us and relationships, us and being present and feeling the world. Whereas if we got comfortable with the idea that perhaps the suffering did exist and we allowed it to sit on our lap rather than trying to get rid of it by focusing on it, that we could just exist with the suffering and still be able to connect with life and be present. I mean, this really ties in with IFS, the therapy that I really love, because it means we become the one who understands that self part of us, that bigger, more compassionate self, the observer who can see the upset part and offer it understanding and compassion and acknowledgement. You know, and something that's really developing in the work I do with couples in couple therapy is helping my couple clients acknowledge each other. You know, this just letting your partner know that even in their pain, and that might be the stuff that really sets you off personally, could be your partner's pain. But even in that, you can acknowledge that you get it, that it makes sense, knowing who they are and what they've been through in their life history and all their sensitivities and their values and what's important to them, that they make sense, that they're not crazy, that they have parts that are trying to protect them and care for them in that way, is understandable. And it's understandable that they can be translating events in that filter, even if you don't like it, right? So acknowledging your partner really feels validating, feels like you're understood and seen and heard. And as humans, there's something about that. There's something about acknowledgement that is, I call it the secret special sauce, right, of connection, of, there's something about it that allows us to let go of holding. It's like before we're validated and acknowledged and seen and heard, we have to hold something up so tightly because they haven't seen it yet. They don't understand yet. We're not validated. We're not understood. So we have to kind of hold it. But the minute we are, we can release and let go. I'm not crazy. It's a really important moment in couple therapy, but what I think is even more important is having that moment with ourselves, having that moment internally between that bigger observer self and an upset part who is creating internal havoc for you, and you probably usually tell it to bugger off, piss off, I don't want you here anymore, you're making my life hell, you're screwing everything up, you shouldn't feel that way. But instead of all of that, we let it know, hey, I get it. And we do get it. We always do, because we know our past and we know our triggers and we know our history and we know what upsets us. Validating and acknowledging our upset can help release. And we can ask our upset parts, how can I support you? And often our upset parts, they kind of say, well, acknowledging me is enough. Sometimes they need a lot more, but often that's enough. And this actually brings me full circle to the whole point of my book, the book that I'm writing, The Beauty Load. This idea that you are not going to get rid of the discomfort or the suffering. You are not going to get rid of the discomfort and suffering you feel in relation to the way you look. It is inevitable. We have been conditioned and programmed this way as women and as men, but as women, to feel shit about the way we look. And that is normal. It's not okay. It's not comfortable, but it is normal. And there is no amount of fixing, of glossing, of buying clothes, of changing ourselves that is going to help you escape this feeling of inadequacy. Because you are a changing, morphing human. And nothing that you change is going to keep this feeling of inadequacy at bay. The one thing that is constant is the beauty load, is this feeling of inadequacy and shame that it gives us. And I'm not enough. And so instead of feeling like in order to be okay, we need to change ourselves, it's about understanding, being compassionate, and accepting of these feelings. They're not personal. They are normal in the world we grew up in. And it makes sense that you feel inadequate and you feel shame and you feel not enough when it comes to beauty. So in short, you're not going to get rid of your suffering, but you can get rid of the anxiety and the escalation of your suffering with a little bit of understanding of what you're going through.